This is Stacey McKibben with the Master Communicator Podcast, where CEOs, C-suite, and senior level executives share their ideas and their advice. It's 6 questions in 9 minutes because the best leaders share their ideas concisely and quickly. Let's jump right in. Question 1, in a few sentences, tell me who you are and what you do.
My name is John Burrows. I'm a 4th generation family member in a transportation and logistics company, the Dewitt Companies. We primarily move household goods and personal effects, as well as freight of all kinds, to the islands of Guam, Hawaii, and Alaska. We have offices in Guam, 5 locations in Hawaii, Honolulu, Maui, Kauai, and 2 locations on the Big Island. A moving and storage operation up in Alaska. Our freight terminal is in the Los Angeles area in the City of Industry, and our headquarters and accounting and freight forwarding operations works out of our San Diego office. And I primarily, I sit on the board for all of the groups. I primarily run our Guam operation, our forwarding operation here out of San Diego, and our real estate division as well.
That's amazing. So 4 generations, you said. So how old is the company then?
The company started in 1927 with our great grandfather, who moved freight or trunks from the rail station there in the LA area to people's homes in the Pasadena location. And each generation has kind of grown it from there and evolved it into what it is today.
That is so cool. Family generation business. You don't hear about those too often anymore.
No.
So I appreciate that. Well, then you've got a lot of great insights for folks. So I'm excited to hear what you have to say. So question number 2, what's the best thing about leading people from your perspective?
Well, I think the best thing about leading people is to watch them grow and to thrive into new areas. I generally go out and try and find new avenues for our companies to grow into and new areas and get things started and find out how it all works, and then try and find somebody I can bring on board that hopefully can do it better than I can. I usually tend to work with them very closely for a number of years until I feel very comfortable that they're doing what they need to do, and I'm always there as a resource to continue doing it. But I think the greatest joy is like I said, kind of watching other people grow and thrive and find new ways to do things, and hopefully they continue to do what I do, which is try and work myself out of a job. And those that do, we continue to see grow into new areas and new avenues, because we're always looking at ways of growing. And I think that's important for all our employees to know that they've got an avenue to grow if they want to. So that's probably the most fun and enjoyable part of my job in leading people.
That's amazing, because you hit 2 really important parts. The first one is, it's about others, right? Leadership is about others, and that's the best part, is really helping to develop them and seeing where they can grow into. But then it's also about really making sure that you're not seeing yourself permanently in any role, that you're constantly growing yourself too, like you said, growing yourself out of a job almost, so that, again, it continues to create space for other people to move into, which I just think is amazing. I don't think all leaders think that way. So that's great insights to share.
Yeah, and I think probably the other part that's nice about that philosophy is that when there is trouble that comes around, that I'm free to take that responsibility off of whoever's running the day-to-day and take on that part of the challenge, so they can continue to be successful in what they do, and make sure that I'm managing the direction and the flow of where we're going, and take care of some of the harder things that need to happen.
Wow. Again, the leaders do the tough stuff, right? I mean, so I love your philosophy there around, being there to support the other person and ensuring they're successful, as opposed to just somebody else to dump things onto. So thank you for sharing that, because again, I think that's rare insights that we hear from leaders today when we think about, which leads me into question number 3, because it's funny. I often hear from other leaders that business would be great if it weren't for the people part, right? And tell me your thoughts about that. Do you ever feel that way, or have you ever heard that before, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've heard that before, and I think in general, I'm very much a half glass full kind of person. So when I hear that statement, I kind of cringe, because I don't like to think about the negative thoughts. But we're a service company. We don't have any products per se that we're selling. We're not manufacturing anything. And so at the end of the day, our company is about the people. And so without the people, we wouldn't exist. And it's fun from a leadership standpoint that we see what we've been able to accomplish and leading and guiding the culture and the values that we want to share and we want established in our companies, caring and like I mentioned earlier, watching others grow. That's really the reward. And with these people in our company, we've got an amazing group of people that have thrived. But I think one of the things that we talk about in our company is caring, right? And so we care about our fellow employees and what's out there in our community. And we've got a great group of people that have taken on that passion to want to give back to our communities. And we kind of have a saying that we talk about in our company that we're all about family, community, and love. And that's why we do what we do. The people in our organizations are the ones that make that happen. They find the things that they want to contribute back to and give back. And it just always makes me very proud to be associated with it. I almost feel disconnected with it in a way, but that's what I want. I want the company to take on the life of its own and to create something that's better out there in our communities and for the families that work for us and the families' lives we affect every day by moving them to a new location to start a new chapter in their life, or whether it's delivering freight to a company that's going to do services within our community or putting products on a shelf. We're just blessed to have great people that can do that. And without these people, we wouldn't be where we are. So I'm super excited to have all of our team members on board.
Well, and I'm super heartened to hear you use, traditionally touchy-feely phrases like, caring, community, family, love. My guess is you might have even gotten some pushback, to using words like that in the organization to kind of define. I'm curious, did you get any pushback, or did you find that everybody really embraced kind of those words as ways to govern our activities and our behaviors?
Yeah, I don't think we've had any pushback at all. I think over the years, I've been working here for 27 years now, and I think it's who I am and what I like to do. That's what makes me happy, is to see others succeed and to see others have something better in their life. And so by natural selection, I guess you'd say, we've acquired and had a lot of great team members. We've got a ton of longevity in our organization. So it just kind of fits, and the people that are that way tend to stay in our organization, and those that are just looking for a job seem to move on to other pastures and find other places to go. So I'm just really proud of the employees that we have and all the effort that they do, and seeing them come together in times of need, or just for, like I said, for community charity events and things like that. We like to see everybody physically get involved and be active in it. So that's really important to us. And it's been, like I said, very exciting and a very proud thing for me to see that continue on.
Again, it's just very heartening, and it's very, awe-inspiring to know that there are organizations that are very heart-centered that way and can build an organization very successfully over almost 100 years to that end by caring about people and about their success. So, it gives you hope for the future, if nothing else. Question number 4 for you. What other successful business leaders like yourself should be on the podcast? Who else do you think would people enjoy hearing from?
Out in the community, and when I talk with other business leaders that are out there, I think the thing that I find most fascinating, and what I like to dig into the most is the leaders that have a lot of people in a lot of locations where they don't necessarily get to see and talk to these people individually. So I'm always intrigued by how large companies communicate, how they continue to have that leadership where people feel like they're part of a small company. And I think that's kind of the trick. When you're a really small company with 2 or 3 people, you try and pretend you're a lot larger and bigger than you are. And then when you're a big company, you want to try and be as small as you can and have that personal feel and touch to it, that we're not just an organization that's trying to be transactional in nature and do what we need to do, but putting in that extra effort. And so how you get employees that you don't get to see and talk to regularly as a leader, it's important to see how others are able to inspire and create a culture that comes to life that does all of those things and leads by the philosophies and principles that you would like to see done, even though you don't get to talk to all these people.
Any ones in particular that you think we should pay attention to?
I don't have any companies in particular. I just think that for me, I'm always in awe of people that have large groups of things, and then I try and distill that down to say, okay, we're a smaller company, but how can we do the same kind of thing to maintain that kind of avenue? There's people out there that have great ways of doing things, and trying to learn from them and their mistakes rather than trying to do it all on your own is important.
Amen. I totally agree. Question number 5. What piece of advice about communication would you give to other leaders?
You know, the number one thing that we see is, number one, communicating with respect and making sure that we get the feedback that we want from others. I think as a leader, it's easy to forget that, you know, when you start on the bottom, that you're kind of always afraid of the boss or don't want to tell them the wrong thing. And so one of the things that I try to do in my communication is make sure that they know that the problems are supposed to rise up and be honest and bring them forthcoming, that it's easier to solve those things as we go. And in general, I think that trying to encourage those to not be afraid to talk to their bosses or the boss's bosses and just be who you are. I spend a large portion of my day, what I call management by walking around. So most of the time I'm in the office or out at the various locations I go to. I try to spend as much time as I can going around, talking first thing in the morning as the trucks are going out, talking to the truck drivers, talking to the packers, the warehousemen, the carpenters, the mechanics, all of them, and just letting them know I'm a person too, and trying to talk to them about that. But the other key element is you can't over communicate. So trying to communicate as much as you can, as much as you try, it'll never be enough. The thing that I try to find a balance between when I see those larger companies is that you see a lot of companies that will go down the newsletter route or things like that. And for me, those become very sterile and impersonal, and they're very factual in nature. So they're very difficult to try and really communicate in a way that's personalized to the people that you're talking to. And so the way I kind of look at it is I try to make sure I'm talking to my key people every day and seeing what is important to them and communicating to them the thoughts I have and the directions we want to go, and knowing that they will in turn take that same philosophy and make sure everybody else knows as well. And so that's the biggest key for me, is making sure I take the time to personally talk with as many folks as I can whenever I get the opportunity to. And I do as much of my work as I can in the morning and the evening when I don't need to be talking to people, and making sure I'm communicating and being responsive to anybody's questions or answers, no matter what they are.
I love that. I took down a bunch of notes. The big one was you can't over communicate. You know, I think, again, we think that that's the thing. I think we think that that's a thing, but you're right. I mean, I don't believe that you can over communicate. I think is, you know, because we believe that repetition is the mother of all learning. We need that to be really successful. So that's huge. And then the personal bit, I've heard it called as a leadership walk before. So that's really great too. I love those ideas. Thank you. And really, the last question, magic question number 6, is tell us about your favorite boss or teacher. Who's influenced you?
You know, as I mentioned, being a 4th generation family, we had truck yards and facilities here in California when I was a young kid. And I was going to the truck yards from the time I was 5 years old. Richard Dewitt is my stepfather. So, I also come from a divorced family, so technically I'm an only child, but, and a lot of kids might say that, oh, woe is me. I always looked at it, like I said, as a positive thing. I had 2 amazing fathers, and I wanted to learn the best from both of them. But I enjoyed working with Richard over the years, and as I came into the family business a few years after working on my own, they asked for a little help. I came in, and the thing I enjoyed the most working with him was mostly he gave the direction and not necessarily the very specifics on how to do it. I'm not a person that likes to be taught very specifically how to do things, and there's only one way to skin a cat, so to speak. but that I was left to my own devices to figure out the best way to solve a problem. So the other part that I enjoyed too was he would kind of push us in a direction that we wanted to go, and maybe put us in a situation that was very difficult. So one example is we rented a warehouse one time that was twice the size of our existing warehouse, which financially we couldn't really afford. But he made sure we got set up in there and said, don't worry about it. You're going to figure out how to fill it up. And sure enough, within 6 months, we figured out how to fill it up. And I think that's the key to all of that is letting people have enough authority to thrive and find their own solutions to it, letting the heavy burden of, oh my gosh, what if we don't make the financial? That's my problem. You guys figure out how to get it done, but I know you can. And having that general philosophy of asking the question, how can you get something done? And our minds are an amazing, powerful thing. And if we constantly think of that and not what we can't do, that we'll find a way to do those. And that's the thing that I think was most important from a leadership quality that I enjoyed working under, and I try to emulate moving forward, is to give people that authority and say, nope, we're going to keep pushing forward. I know it's uncomfortable, but let's keep pushing forward. And I know we can figure out a way to do it. Let's figure out how we can.
I love that. Great story. Well, thank you so much for being on, John. I really appreciate it. How can people find you? If they have any questions, if they wanted to reach out and ask any questions, how could they best get a hold of you?
They certainly can reach out to me via email. My email is john_burrows@dewittmove.com. We also on the website at dewittmove.com. And my contact information would be on there as well. And other than that, I'm happy to learn and meet other folks and try and figure out how to continue to grow myself personally and in business.
That's awesome. Well, thank you, John. And this is Stacey McKibben with the Master Communicator Podcast. For more insights and ideas, please go to www.concilioteam.com and get everything you need right there. We'll look forward to seeing you the next time.
Great. Thank you.